Hey class, my name is Jamie Cohen. I'll be your instructor for social media this semester, and I'll be teaching it online through this method. I'll be talking to you through these little video lectures, through this GoPro, and sitting in this room, and these are going to come out weekly, and you're going to watch a lot of these because this is how the class is going to go. So today's video is basically just an introduction. That's all it is. It's just how does this course work? Who am I? What are we doing here? How's this all going to happen? So first, this course is called Social Media. It's MEDST 255. And it's going to be delivered to you through Substack newsletter with the lectures embedded in them. That's how you're going to receive it. This way it's like kind of like in your email box. All the assignments are going to be handed in the discussion board and on the assignments on Blackboard. So they kind of work in conjunction. Social Media, the class, is about an interrogation of how social media operates, what it does, how it works, why it's based on commodification, what memes are, how we understand surveillance capitalism, and what movements come from that. There's a lot to cover in one semester. Even more difficult when we're doing this asynchronously remotely, which means it's kind of on you how you get this information. You have to basically set some time aside per week to watch these lectures, to read the readings. There's at least one reading or viewing every single week. And then do some interpretation on those readings or viewings so we could make it sure that it's an assignment that makes sense to you, where I have to understand that you understand it. So things we're going to really cover is social media itself. What is that as far as a media is concerned, or a media market? What type of online media is social media? We're going to be learning how to do critical thinking about social media, which is my favorite part. Like, how do we reinterpret social media so it makes sense critically? That means we're going to criticize a lot of it. Communication as a device. Like, how is social media a communication platform? How do we use that to change the world around us? I think that's pretty important. Commodification. What does it mean that we have influencers? How do influencers operate? What do influencers do? And what does it mean to be aware that money is part of the system in which we use social media? Further, my goals for you are for you to increase your internet literacies. That means you become a better reader and writer of the internet, that you become a better user. For the sake of your future, everyone else's future, I want you to be a better user of social media. Because we're at a point in time where digital life and in real life, IRL, is crossing. It's becoming something that's genreless or borderless. We're now sharing spaces between the internet world and our physical space pretty much all the time. And I think if we don't take a second to kind of interrogate it and understand how these things operate, we're destined to just let the corporations kind of control that. So I really want you to have much more agency or personal role in the way that technology develops. On that note, we'll be talking about social media as a utility and how it's regulated or not regulated for that matter. What does utilities mean and what does a regulation mean? So we're going to go over that. And one of the things that I think you're going to find most fun is YouTube and my specialty, memes. So who am I? My name's Jamie Cohen. I have a PhD in cultural and media studies. My specific focus in my PhD was memes. I'm a meme doctor. I study it in depth, and I mean that fairly blatantly. I study it as visual artifacts, as in cultural artifacts, how we share that with the future and understand the past. But I also study it through memetics, which is the transfer of visual culture through time and language. How does semiotics operate? That means seeing symbols as language. How does memetics work, which means more of a energy or a feeling? And how do those come to us from people manifesting spaces through memes and structures? There's going to be a fair amount of discussion about memes through this class because above and beyond how social media operates, we operate in a memetic space. That means how culture drives it. So that's going to be a really fun part. Last week was a really great week for me. I had a week ago, from when you're seeing this, I did an event for my project Digital Void where we did something called Meme in the Moment. And if you want to see it, there's a link in the Substack for you to watch it, but you kind of get a sense of where meme studies are at this current moment. It's a little bit of a long video, it's an hour and a half. But that was really fun for me. That was like my big summer culmination. It all led to that. Josh and I had planned that all semester. Josh teaches podcasting. He's also an instructor here at Queens College. And it was really a great moment. Some more background on me will be developed over the course of the semester, but the long story short is that I was a former reality television producer. I burned out really early in TV and went into academia to learn how the internet works. My master's is on YouTube, and I studied YouTube since basically 2006, a year after I was born. You're going to get a fair amount of history about YouTube in this class too. And I study the differences and the tension between traditional media and new media. That's what I've studied. I founded an internet studies degree at another college. I launched a degree in new media, and over 24 people have a degree that I kind of made up. So now I'm at Queens College. I'm really happy to be here. I left there willingly to go to Queens College, so I'm happy to be here. And I'm very happy with teaching Queens College students. I also want to recognize this moment, the fact that we're learning digitally and asynchronously and online. I want to recognize that it's still a tough and difficult time in our history to be in a pandemic and sort of through a pandemic, but also not outside a pandemic, but also once in a 100-year thing going on, and how stressful that is for you, and to recognize and to empathize with the fact that this isn't easy. It isn't easy to consume media like this. It isn't easy to go to class on video or on Zoom or anything. I want to be very clear about that because I want you to acknowledge that I understand things get tough. Sometimes people will get sick. Sometimes life gets in the way. The labor market isn't exactly very welcoming right now. So I want to recognize that I understand that there's struggles, and I'll be glad to speak with you about anything that you want to talk about that makes your life better in the case that there's a difficulty or things that are going on that you want to make sure that you succeed in this class. Obviously, my goal is for you to succeed in this class. Let me go over some of the kind of like the important factors of how this class is actually going to operate. One, I think I said before, we're going to do the class on a Substack newsletter. So you will subscribe to that. It's in this announcement, and it's going to be something to subscribe, and you'll see the video is already embedded in that. Second, I want you to fill out the survey. This lets me know where you're coming from, lets me learn a bit about what background or what your interests are in social media. So I kind of want to know that. It also gives me some contact information on how to get in touch with you. Speaking of which, use my Gmail to get in touch with me. You could use my Qmail as much as you'd like. QCmail is james.cohen@qc.cuny.edu, or one way or the other. But I prefer you use jamesncohen@gmail. jamesncohen@gmail. That's that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. It travels with me everywhere I go. It's important that you use that one. Grading policy. Okay, so grading on this class is going to be very interesting because it is asynchronous. So every week you're going to receive a lecture through the newsletter. It looks just like this. It's on YouTube. You watch the lecture. It's followed by usually 1 to 2 things to watch or read. So it's a movie, a documentary, a clip, a YouTube video, and an article, usually a fairly long form article, which I want you to read and understand and analyze. That will be followed by 2 assignments, usually 1 discussion and 1 assignment. The discussion board is designed as your community space. Blackboard is not great at this. It's usually fairly linear and doesn't really engender really great conversations. However, you get extra points for responding. So I know it's linear, it's weird, but you get extra points, which you may need at the end of the semester because as your other classes become very busy, you want to make sure that you bank up a fair amount of points in the beginning, and you do get graded on discussions and assignments separately. We do have a midterm paper and a final paper. I'll get to those later in the semester. The grading policy is also, because it's asynchronous, does not mean you can do this whole class at the very end. You need to keep up. I expect you to hand in your assignments weekly. I expect to grade them weekly, and I expect to give you that back so you could have constant feedback. After 2 weeks, the discussion board is not valid. In other words, if you don't do a discussion within the 2 weeks, it becomes a 0 after 2 weeks. It's just weird to discuss something that's like way long ago. Assignments you can make up for lower credit. So if you don't do them in that time, you will just max out. Even if you do a perfect one, it maxes out at like a 70. So it's on you. I mean, it's a commitment. This is what class is. I mean, I don't like this format either, but this is how it's got to be, and this is what it works. Finally, to get in touch with me, aside from my Gmail address, you could use my office hours. Every Wednesday from 4 to 5:30 p.m., I will be sitting on Zoom, basically in the same way, but from another part of this room, where you could join my office hours anytime and talk about anything you'd like, talk about the class, talk about other classes, talk about how you get through it, and so on and so forth. Those are open office hours. You do have to register once, and then from there forward, it's fine. But this way you have the Zoom as my open office hours. Occasionally I will be on campus. If I am, I'll let you know. And this way you could actually meet me on campus. October 27th, there's an event in the city that I'll be hosting. That's a point where you could go to that event too. It's in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and we'll talk about that as it goes. It's the next Meme in the Moment event. So there are ways that we could interact in physical, real space too, so it's not just like this cold, asynchronous YouTube video learning. Although, that being said, I'm sure many of you have learned things on YouTube before, and this seems to be a fairly natural way of understanding things. So, anyway, this whole said, this is just an introduction. Fill out the survey, introduce yourself, and subscribe to the newsletter, and we'll be on our way to getting this class going through the semester. So if you have any questions, obviously you can email me. Until next time, be curious, stay safe, be healthy.